In 2017, mere weeks before he passed, Tom Petty broke down in tears with his closest friend. He finally confessed the moment that had tortured him for nearly 40 years. It was 1979. Someone he loved was dying, and Tom turned his back and walked out. He never returned. He called it the single most cowardly act of his life. That shame seeped into every lyric, every tour, every relationship. He tried to drown it in drugs. Nothing ever silenced it. What he did that day will shatter you. It explains everything about the way he lived and why he died. Tom Petty entered the world on October 20th, 1950 at precisely 3:51 p.m. in Gainesville, Florida. His mother Kitty worked at the local tax office. His father Earl was a traveling salesman who was rarely home. They lived in a quiet neighborhood called the Duck Pond, lined with old Victorian houses and moss-draped oaks, the kind of place that looked calm on the outside. Inside the Petty house, calm was nowhere to be found. Earl had a vicious temper and a heavy drinking habit. By the time Tom was 5, the beatings were routine. One afternoon in 1955, while playing with a slingshot, Tom accidentally chipped the tail fin of a gleaming 1955 Cadillac. The furious owner marched straight to their door. Kitty whispered, "This is bad. Your daddy's not gonna like this." When Earl came home drunk that night, he unbuckled his belt and whipped Tom until welts covered his entire body. Kitty and Tom's grandmother laid the sobbing boy on the bed, peeled off his clothes, and dabbed the wounds with alcohol-soaked cotton while he bit the pillow to stay quiet. It wasn't the last time. Tom learned to vanish the moment his father walked in. His only refuge was his mother. Kitty was gentle, soft-spoken, and always humming country tunes with the radio on. But her life was hard too. She battled epilepsy and cancer while quietly absorbing Earl's rages. Years later, while Tom was playing with Mudcrutch, the family took a fishing trip. Earl drank too much, crashed the car into another vehicle, and everyone was knocked unconscious. Kitty never fully recovered. She grew frail and distant. When she died on October 21st, 1980, one day after Tom's 30th birthday, he said he had already lost her long before. Everything changed again the summer he was 10. In 1961, his uncle Earl Jernigan worked on a movie set in nearby Ocala. The film was Follow That Dream, and the star was Elvis Presley. Hundreds lined the streets. Then Elvis appeared, radiant, almost otherworldly, and walked straight past young Tom, stopping just long enough to shake his hand. Tom was speechless. That handshake struck like lightning. He raced home, traded his slingshot to his buddy Keith Harbin for a stack of Elvis 45s, locked himself in his room, and played them non-stop. His parents thought he'd lost his mind. He didn't care. He had discovered something stronger than fear. Tom's little brother Bruce was born in 1957. By the time Bruce could walk, the house was coming apart. Earl's jobs were unsteady, the gambling and drinking worse, money tighter, shouting constant. Bruce learned to stay quiet and play sports to avoid the belt. Tom escaped into music and TV, but he couldn't unsee his mother shrinking under illness and rage. The scar never healed. At 14 in 1964, pain turned into possibility. A girl named Cindy at Howard Bishop Junior High asked if he knew a band for the school dance. He lied and said yes, then rounded up friends and formed the Sundowners. They rehearsed in a carpet-lined shed behind the house. That summer, they won a battle of the bands and started gigging Friday nights for $100 a show. The Beatles had just exploded on Ed Sullivan that February. Tom heard "I Want to Hold Your Hand" at the teen center and realized he didn't have to be Elvis. He just needed a guitar and something to say. But darkness followed. In 1966, the band was setting up at a University of Florida frat house when Tom got into an argument with drummer Dennis Lee. Words became threats. Dennis punched Tom in the face and didn't stop. Frat boys cheered as Tom hit the floor. His mother cried all night when she saw his face. The Sundowners were finished. Earl never understood his son. He wanted a tough, hunting, sports-playing boy. Instead, he got a quiet, long-haired dreamer obsessed with music. After the Elvis moment and the Beatles invasion, there was no turning back. Tom graduated Gainesville High in 1968, hair past his shoulders, stairs everywhere in town. After the Sundowners collapsed, Tom met guitarist Mike Campbell. The connection was instant. They started jamming and formed Mudcrutch with Benmont Tench on keys and a few others. They played all over Florida, rehearsed at a rundown place they called Mudcrutch Farm, and lived the music. By 1970, at 19, Tom was fronting the band full-time. They cut their first single in 1971 and built a small cult following with strange, soulful songs that owed more to the Grateful Dead than Top 40 radio. That fall, they landed a 6-night-a-week gig at Dub's Steer Room, a rough joint with topless dancers and rowdy crowds, for $100 a week total. Days they landscaped campus in the Florida heat. Nights they played 9 p.m. to 2 a.m., then rehearsed at the farm. It was brutal, non-stop, the only way to survive. In 1972, they threw a festival at the farm. Hundreds showed. Cops left them alone. Emboldened, they threw another on Halloween. This one spiraled. Drugs everywhere, people acting like it was a Clockwork Orange. Police stormed in, yanked cords, confiscated drumsticks, shut it down. Fans tore down the PA towers and set them on fire. The band got evicted. Mudcrutch was homeless again. Through it all, Tom never wavered. On March 24, 1974, he married his high school sweetheart, Jane Benyo. She was pregnant with their daughter Adria, born November 28th. They lived above a barbershop and laundromat, friends crashing, weed smoke thick, records spinning. Tom played new songs for Mike at the kitchen table. But the tiny apartment, constant noise, and Tom's obsession wore Jane down. She felt invisible even when he was home. August 1974, age 23, Tom Petty left Gainesville forever with a demo tape, a few friends, and $100 borrowed for gas. Mudcrutch piled into vans and drove west, chasing a sound. They had no plan, just faith. Within a week in LA, 7 labels offered studio time off that rough demo. Producer Denny Cordell flew them to Tulsa, locked them in the studio 20 straight hours, and by spring 1975, Shelter Records signed them. They crashed at the seedy Hollywood Premier Motel, then moved into empty houses with pools in Canoga Park. Tom said it felt like royalty. "We brought all the girls and dogs. This was heavy, man. A house with a swimming pool." The dream cracked fast. By late 1975, Mudcrutch imploded. Too many songwriters pulling opposite ways. Tom stayed in LA alone in a 6-a-night motel, living on a small publishing advance. Then, early 1976, Benmont Tench booked studio time and called old Gainesville pals to jam. Tom dropped by, heard the chemistry, and knew instantly. This was the sound. Mike Campbell, Benmont Tench, Ron Blair on bass, Stan Lynch on drums. They cut Strangered in the Night on the spot. Tom rushed the tape to Malibu. Things moved lightning fast. June 1976, they recorded 15 songs in 15 nights. 1 take per night, no sleep. They became Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers. The debut album dropped November 9, 1976, sold barely 6,500 copies in 3 months. Breakdown flopped. Then early 1977, they opened for Blondie at the Whiskey. Critics lost their minds. A UK tour opening for Niels Lofgren followed. American Girl and Anything That's Rock and Roll took over British radio. Crowds went berserk. Tom landed at Heathrow to a full press mob. For 2 months, girls stormed stages. Security couldn't hold them. They weren't opening anymore, they were headlining. When Breakdown was re-released late 1977, it cracked the US Top 40, March 1979. Shelter was sold to MCA without Tom's consent, against his contract. He felt sold like cattle. MCA sued to enforce the deal. They froze him from recording or signing elsewhere. Tom went into the studio anyway, paid $500,000 out of pocket for what became Damn the Torpedoes. May 23, 1979, broke and cornered, he filed Chapter 11 bankruptcy, $576,000 in debt, $56,000 in assets. The move voided every contract and forced MCA to renegotiate. One terrified executive told Billboard, "If this works, every artist will do it." It worked. Tom kept creative control. Everything else was collapsing. His marriage to Jane was disintegrating. She was mentally unraveling, addicted, calling constantly, threatening suicide if he hung up. Their daughter Adria witnessed it all. October 19, 1979, Damn the Torpedoes exploded to number 2, triple platinum. Refugee, Don't, Do Me Like That, Here Comes My Girl, Everywhere. The album was forged in lawsuits, exhaustion, and rage. Success brought money but pressure. Bassist Ron Blair hated endless touring and vanished socially. By 1982, he quit. 1981, MCA tried to charge $9.98 for Hard Promises, superstar pricing. Tom threatened to title it $8.98 and boycott. Stores joined him. MCA caved. Album dropped at $8.98, went platinum. 1985's Southern Accents was meant as a double album about the South. Tom obsessed in his basement studio, trying forced Southern vocals. One night, frustrated with a Rebels take, he punched the wall and shattered his left hand. Surgeons inserted pins. Doctors said he might never play again. He endured electroshock therapy just to close his fist. Dave Stewart and Stevie Nicks helped finish it. That same tour, they used the Confederate flag as backdrop, tied to Rebels. Fans waved flags. Tom realized too late the message it sent. In North Carolina, he stopped the show and called himself stupid. In 2015, he apologized publicly. Cocaine flooded the sessions. Stan Lynch called it dancing with Mr. D. Mike Campbell once snorted something he thought was coke and ended up hospitalized. September 1st, 1982, Howie Epstein replaced Ron Blair. 20 years later, Howie would die of heroin. 1984, Jane gave birth to second daughter Anakim, but sank deeper into addiction. Tom found her passed out while the baby slept alone. He knew he had to leave. Divorce finalized in 1996, but she still showed up screaming outside his house at night. 1985's Don't Come Around Here No More video. Petty as the Mad Hatter slicing Alice into cake sparked outrage and fueled the PMRC censorship fight, yet became his biggest pop hit. April 1988, George Harrison needed a B-side. Stopped by Tom's house for a guitar, dragged him to Bob Dylan's garage. With Jeff Lynne and Roy Orbison, they cut Handle with Care. Warner said it was too good for a B-side. Make an album. The Traveling Wilburys were born. Volume 1 sold 3 million. Pure joy. Volume 3, 1990, deliberately skipping 2, lacked Orbison, Dead 1988, and Magic. 1989, Full Moon Fever. Quintuple Platinum, Free Fallin', I Won't Back Down, Runnin' Down a Dream. MCA initially refused to release it. No hits. The president quit. The next team reversed course. Stan Lynch felt it was Tom going solo. He was right. 1991 into the Great Wide Open sessions. Howie Epstein already slipping into heroin, stealing studio cash for fixes. 1994 Wildflowers, the divorce album. Tom didn't want to leave the studio. It was the only safe place. He cut 28 tracks. Warner forced it to 15. It still sold 4 million. He later said he could never make another like it. After the 1996 divorce, Tom collapsed into heroin at age 50. Private, alone in hotel rooms, cold turkey attempts, self-loathing. Dana York slowly pulled him out. They married 2001. 1999, Echo, recorded while Jane stalked the house and Howie faded. Room at the Top sounded anything but hopeful. 2002, Howie fired after showing up skeletal at the Rock Hall induction. Died of heroin February 2003, age 47. Tom said it felt like watching a tree die slowly, then someone cuts it down. 2008 Super Bowl halftime, 97 million viewers. Biggest ever then. Behind the scenes, fentanyl patches, oxycodone, fractured hip, emphysema, unbearable pain. Just get me to the stage. 2014 pneumonia collapsed him on stage. 2015 European tour, Dana found him overdosed on heroin in a London hotel bathroom. 2 shots of naloxone saved him. He never told the public. In therapy near the end, he admitted the deepest guilt. April 1979, his mother Kitty dying of cancer. He rushed to the hospital. Her bed was covered in clippings of him, his name taped to the walls. She could barely move. He took one look, panicked, and fled. Never returned. Didn't attend the funeral. Sent brother Bruce instead. He called it the most cowardly thing he ever did. Same pattern with Stan Lynch. Fired 1994, never reconciled. Howie needed help, didn't get it. Jane watched her disintegrate while he toured. April-September 2017, 40th anniversary tour, 53 shows, $61 million, fractured hip hidden, carried by golf cart off stage. Final show September 25th at the Hollywood Bowl. He looked exhausted but smiled. October 2nd, 2017, found unconscious in Malibu. Died that night, age 66. Official cause: multi-organ failure from mixed drug toxicity. Fentanyl, oxycodone, benzodiazepines, antidepressants, acetylfentanyl. His hip had fully shattered that day. The family called it accidental. The pain meds simply became too much. Posthumous releases: An American Treasure, 2018. Wildflowers and Did All the Rest, 2020. Finding Wildflowers, 2021. Finally gave the world the complete double album he always wanted. Raw takes, home movies, The Real Tom. His story became a national warning about fentanyl. Doctors still use it in trainings. His family says maybe his accidental death saved someone else. That day in 1979, when he walked away from his dying mother, never stopped haunting him. In the end, the cowardice he couldn't forgive in himself was the same cowardice that made him run from every pain, until the pain finally caught him.